I screwed up the last podcast I did because I said, good afternoon, America. I'm wrong. I've got friends that live outside of America, so I've got to change this one now to
world.
Hello, planet Earth.
There we go.
Welcome to Hanging Out with K-Dubs. Hunter, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. This is going to be a fun one for me. I've been watching your journey now for the last, say, year and a half that you've been started on, because you ended up going into. First of all, before I get to that point, thank you for serving this great America, for serving this great country that we live in. Not enough thanks can be said or heard from around the world and from people here in the United States. But so first of all, thank you. Second of all, I'm excited for you. I'm excited to hear the journey that I've seen through my eyes, but to hear it from you, that the person that's actually going through it, because you just graduated boot camp here a couple weeks ago. So I'm looking forward to this. But before we get to boot camp and all that, I want you to take me back to when you first thought, hey, I want to join the military. Like, what was going through your mind?
Yeah. So I started off like back in high school. It was like sophomore year. I talked to the recruiters and everything, and I was kind of like really interested in it. And we started. I kicked off with one of the recruiters. He's not there anymore. But so when we talked to him, me and Dad and Mom went there, and I kind of got an idea. And he said you have to lose weight and all that.
Because what were you then?
Then I was pushing sophomore year. I was pushing 290, 300, and he said I got to drop some weight. And I was doing football too at the same time. And coaches were telling me put on more weight, for linemen. So I had two contradicting things at the time, and I thought football was more important than a possible future in the military. So I was in contact with them and just kind of getting some ideas of what jobs I could do in the Army. And eventually he falled off and I falled off, and I didn't pick it back up until about senior year. I thought about doing the Navy because Shannon's cousin Sean, he's in the Navy. And with that, he said, why don't you just talk to a recruiter, see what you could do, what you want to do, what jobs there are. And so I did. And I was talking to one for probably a good 5 months, and then he just dropped me because I was still too overweight. I was about 330 at the time now for senior year. And with that, I just kind of completely fell off. I said, screw the military. I don't want to join. I'll do my own thing. And then through that, I hit a point. I was like on the scale, and I weighed 349. I remember exactly. I'm like, I really need to do something. And I don't know, the jobs interest me, like Home Depot. And work on the farms is fun, like with Ty and everybody. But it's just, it's not going to pay bills, or I'm not going to get the dream I want. So then I started losing weight. I started hanging out with my buddies more who go to the gym. And I started that whole process of losing weight.
So talk me through that. Were you going to the gym 4 times a week? Did you change your diet at all?
So at first it was really, really rough. It was like you wake up and I'm like, really, do I really want to go to the gym? I could just stay at home. I could, find something else to do and distract me. But with that, my buddies really helped encourage me. I'll say they were really the building block to losing weight. And so I was probably around, I want to say the summer of 2022 is where I really started doing the diet and everything. And then with, what's it called, social media, it just started booming with like all the gym stuff and motivating. And I kind of learned off of some other people. I changed my diet. I went from I was probably eating about 3,000 calories a day back then to I dropped down to 2,500, and I dropped for about 6 months. So to the end of the year, around Christmas time, I dropped, I want to say 50 pounds. So I just breached the 300 point. And
in 6 months.
In 6 months.
From working out and cutting some calories down.
Mm-hmm. And I was happier with that. And
probably felt better too.
It did. It really did. Oh, I tell you, I mean, it was excruciating during the whole process, but it felt great to see that scale and you drop down. You're like, wow, I really did that.
I'm working. It's working what I'm doing.
And then you hit that point of plateau, and that was a really hard thing to overcome. It took me about a month to figure that out, the whole plateau thing. So when I plateaued, I kind of didn't give up. It was kind of like I don't know how to describe it. You're trying to figure out. It's a trial and error thing. You're like, so what do I got to do? Up my workouts or got to change my diet? You don't know what to do. You got to really figure out your own body at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually started, I worked out with this one guy. His name's Steve. He's 64. He's he participated in, not Mr. Olympias, but bodybuilding shows. And he was an ex-Marine and a drill sergeant and all that good stuff. So with that as well, he also helped encourage me and like found that motivation to go back into a military. And I started talking to a recruiter again. I've gone through a lot of recruiters. It's kind of embarrassing.
Well, not really. I mean, at that point, when you were a sophomore before, you weren't sure that's what you wanted to do. And then when you were a senior, it still wasn't. You still weren't sure that's what you wanted to do. Yeah. At the end of the day. And I know if I look at myself when I was 15, 16, 17, I go, geez, that's a lot of freaking effort. I got to lose this weight just to join the military. Like, maybe I can come up with something else.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it.
Yeah. And so I eventually, I reached out to a recruiter. He said, if you lose a bit of weight and show that you're trying, we can maybe work something out. And I was at that plateau moment, and I was about 290 at the time. So he dropped me just because the recruiter's got to get a lot done. So when recruiting, you have to get a certain amount of people to join in order to promote and keep the job. So if they don't get that numbers, they get in trouble. So he dropped me, which I understand. It's their job.
It's business.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I just kept on the gym journey, and I eventually I was down to, I want to say, I hit the 280 point, so I dropped another 10 pounds, and it was fair time. And the truck, big army truck, pulled up to the camper that year, and they said, "Have you thought about it?" And I'm like, I've done it plenty of times, talked to recruiters, and I think it was later that September, I went down and I saw the recruiter I talked to and have made good friends with now. And, I joined took February 24th is the day I signed. And he saw that I was losing weight, I was trying, and he was really, I would say he's motivated. He helped motivate me to get in and sign the papers and just chase that dream. So there's that whole story with the...
Yeah, so you signed February 24th. And so walk me through what happened after that.
So after I signed, you hit this point of now you're waiting for papers and the government to do its thing. You just hurry up and you wait. And
thanks, government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. I thank them a lot. Amount of waiting I've done is I could probably put in more than 24 hours of waiting. But so we signed your papers and now you're officially in. There's no backing out. But
hook, line, and sinker.
Mm-hmm. We were in the midst. So once you sign, now you're trying to figure out where you're going to go, what's your job, or you usually pick out your job before you go, in which I did for some reserves. And
so they got like a big list you can go down and be like, you can be infantry, you can be gunner, you can be a mechanic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess I missed that point. So I guess when it was towards, I want to say November or December, I took the ASVAB test, which is that test that's going to tell you what jobs you qualify for, how smart you are, and et cetera. I qualified for a lot of jobs. I had a 52 or 54. So it was above average. It would qualify for any job you really want. So I looked at my jobs and I'm like, mom and dad are like, oh, don't do, infantry. Don't be stupid. Because, I mean, not that they're stupid. It's just, you're going to be in there right away. And I'm like, yeah, but it sounds cool because infantry does all the cool stuff. But then I'm looking down, I saw there's military police and dog handler, in which I was really into dog handling with Vera. But when I got her, I was really trying to train her a little bit, not like military dog, but in a sense, she got it. So I looked at that and I was talking to my recruiter and said, how could I get military working dog or dog handler? He said, well, that's a unicorn job. It's not something you just ask for because usually it's given to people who are already in the service who know what they're doing. So I said, well, what job gets me there? And he said, you try the military police or you could try infantry. They always try to sell you infantry.
I'm sure every one of them will still try to sell anybody infantry.
Yeah, they're really trying to sell it, but I don't take it.
You didn't bite that hook,
nope,
did you?
Nope. There's cooler jobs you could do out there. So I said, well, I try them. And there's another recruiter there. She was in military police, and she said, why don't you look into it? And I really did a little bit of homework. Didn't do too much. But I'm like, you know what? That sounds really nice. And I want to be a sheriff and police officer when I come home. That works. So I joined the MP Corps, which was then when we shipped out to Fort Leonard Wood, which is a 19, for us it was 20 weeks, but it was a 19-week process of training.
Boot camp.
Boot camp, yep. So there's boot camp portion and there's AIT portion.
Okay.
And boot camp is your basic training, and then AIT is your job training. And
specifically for the job you're going to take.
Yes, so specifically for the MPs. And
how's that divided up?
So 9 weeks of basic training, and then 9 weeks or 10 weeks of MP training.
Gotcha.
And so when you sign it, it's going to be, because usually most people it's called OSET, One Station Unit Training. That's what ours is called. That's our basic for MPs because it's just all in one. Mm-hmm. Like if you were I think it's truck drivers or any other, like a lot of other jobs in the military, you would go to basic at one of the main bases, like Jackson, Benning, Leonard Wood. There's a couple others. You go there and then you come back home or you stay on a base and you're waiting for orders to go to school.
Gotcha. So other jobs might do something, might be completely off base compared to where you were at somewhere else.
Yeah. So like when you're at those other jobs, you're going to move to a whole other place. So you could be in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then move all the way to Texas for your job training for like 52 weeks. And you're just stuck there.
Oof. So it sounds like you picked what was right for you then.
I did.
Military police.
It was really fitting. At first, you get there and you're like, oh, shoot, what did I do? This is not what I wanted. But
oh, we're going to talk about that. Oh, yeah. So when did you leave for basic training then?
So my contract stated, after doing all that processing with the recruiter and everything, we set it up for April. It was originally April 4th, and then it moved to April 1st. And then I had to go to a fat camp because they're like, I was athletic enough and my recruiter knew I was good enough. And it's funny because the day I shipped out is when the day the Army changed their whole measuring system. So before I left, it was you shaped your neck, your waist, your height, and you did your height and weight. Now they just do your waist and your height. And they call it goods and they do some sort of calculation and
yeah, you're either in or you're out, right? So you shipped off to fat camp first. I'm going to do it in parentheses.
Yeah, it really wasn't like a fat camp because there's some people, like what's one guy I made friends with, his name's Katie. He was really like athletic. He's probably more athletic than me and you. And he went there and I'm like, the Army does some weird things. I'll say that. They send people there who don't need to go. And then also at the fat camp, they have this thing called 88 Mike, which is like a stupid camp is what you want to say. It's people who didn't score good enough on that ASVAB. And they're like below 32s. But the Army says, we'll still take you. We'll just train you and we'll pick a job for you. And there's a lot of people. It's crazy. It's not crazy. It's good, I would say. But there's a lot of people coming into the Army. This program's helped a lot of people get in, per se. And it's a lot of people who are trying to get their citizenship or just be able to live in the United States. So they just send them to this camp. You do your schooling, they give you a job, and they'll give you citizenship as well.
Great. I like to hear that.
That's one program that's helping a lot. And then obviously, like I said, the fat, it sounds derogatory, the fat camp, but it really does help get their numbers up. So, and they teach you there, which is another thing that I guess would help me on my journey in boot camp, I should say, that, so when you go there, you go to reception. Reception is completely separate than your actual training days too, because I had to do it twice. I had to do it at Jackson, and I had to do it at Fort Leonard Wood, which really sucked. But yeah, it was not. That was if there's anything that sucked most, it was reception. But so Fort Jackson reception, I was there for about, I think it was almost a week. I showed up Monday, April 1st, and I shipped to Fat Camp Friday. And,
so a lot of sitting around and waiting.
Mm-hmm. So when I showed up to Fort Jackson, I got off of the airplane, and there was no like direction where to go, so I was a little lost in the airport for a second. But you walk out towards like the front, the entrance to the airport, and then there's this drill sergeant. He's just sitting there. It's already started. And as soon as you get there, they have you line up by gender and then age and height, and then you. They had us separate for, who's there for the camps, the 88 mics and the fat camp, and who's there for actual basic training. They put you on a bus, and it's about, I would say, like a 10-minute drive to the camp itself, or to the reception, the base. And with that little fun drive, it's just dead silence. You can't go on your phone. You're not supposed to say anything. You get off, and they give you a whole little introduction. They give you your papers, your orders. And then I remember from that night, we took us to our room, or I should say our bay. That's like there's about 32 guys in this bay. They took us up there. We got a head count. And then as soon as we got the head count, they took us downstairs, and we went to go get all our uniforms. And this is like 10 o'clock at night. It was late. And so we got our uniforms. We got our... What else we get? We got our socks, laundry bag, and there's something else we got from there. Oh, and our towels. So like all your hygiene, your basic hygiene clothes you're going to need for the next couple of days you're going to be there. And that took about an hour and a half to 2 hours just getting your clothes and all that sorted. And then they took us back to the bay, and they said, all right, we'll see you the next day. And the next day started an hour later. So they put us in bed at like 2:33. We got an hour of sleep, and we were back up doing...
Good morning.
Mm-hmm. It was just, that was terrible. I remember I had a journal, and I was so sleep deprived that I was like scribbled in my journal because I just could not... And that's where you sit there and you're like, shit, I really screwed up.
Oh, no, it's the first day. I've got an hour of sleep. Mm-hmm. I'm already just miserable.
And then you just got more miserable at reception. So they wake you up, and we stood outside for like an hour waiting to go to breakfast. We didn't even do anything. We just sat there and waited to go to breakfast. And then we went to breakfast. And that was the first time, eating at what they call the DFAC dining facility. And the food there wasn't terrible. And, if you weren't like new or knew anything about military at all going in, like you have to be completely organized, don't move when you're in line and all that. Me personally, I did all right there. There's some others who struggled, but
that probably helped you when you moved on to basic then.
Yes. That reception was a good building block. It really is. So we had chow, and for the next 4 days, it was the same thing. One day was you were getting your hair cut and your photo taken, and then that was it for the day. And then you just had to sit there and wait till the next day to start doing your shots and your medical, and wait a whole other day for to get issued your glasses, to get issued your OCPs, your camo, and all that. And then the fourth day, you had all your bags. It's shipping day, which is Friday, and we shipped out on Friday morning to go to the fat camp. And we sat there for probably 2 hours just sitting on our bag waiting to get picked up on a bus. That was pretty miserable because it was hot. South Carolina was just coming out in the summer. And you're just sitting there. There's no clouds. There's no wind.
Just sweating. Sweating. Just like, come on, man. Get your shit together so we can move this train forward.
And the drill sergeants there weren't that, you would think of a drill sergeant like they're always mean and angry. In which at reception they are a little bit. We had one that was really like more of a leader, had that, I don't know how to explain it, like an influence on you that's like, just do the right thing. And there's no reason to be an action, yelling and all that. So
correct.
We got that treatment a little bit, which was kind of cool to see. But then we loaded on the bus that day. And I think it was about 11. It was peak heat and everything. The day is just rolling. I think it was 89 degrees that day. Yeah, it was about 89. No wind, no clouds, just straight sun. And they come up, your drill sergeants come up and they throw your stuff in on this big truck. It's called an IOTV. And they throw all your bags in there. And then you separately go load onto a bus. And then we load up on this bus, and you come in and you sit down, and your drill sergeant sits down on the bus with you in the front of the bus. They tell you to put your head down, and you just don't say nothing. Just keep your head down and look at the ground, your feet, whatever. And it was probably a 5-minute drive to the company. And you get there, and you're just kind of like your blood starts rushing. You're like, oh shoot, when the bus stopped is when the blood just starts rushing, the adrenaline rushing.
Because you know it's coming.
And so they stop. The drill sergeant gets up and says, "Get the hell off my bus!" Like in a quick, fast, in a hurry. And you all start running or speed walking out of the bus. And you come off, and there's just 4 or 5 other drill sergeants standing there waiting for you to get off, and they just start yelling at you and drilling it into you. You have 5 of them telling you to run straight and to cut the corner and go in the pit. And the pit is everywhere in basic training. It's a tire pit. It's just a bunch of broken up tire and all that. So that was even worse than the heat.
All that black rubber just soaking in the heat.
Mm-hmm. You lay down in it. You rather lay on concrete than lay on that black rubber. So we get there and so they don't say smoked anymore. They used to say smoked, but now it's a dust off. So we say dust off. They dust us off. You stand there. You put your bag over your head. And you have to squat and then put a bench press it up, and then you're just doing that for 5 minutes. And they tell you to go in the shade, and they want you to look at this little thing they got set up. It's jerry cans, a stretcher, and sandbags. They tell you to look at it, memorize it. You got 20 seconds to look at it, and they tell you to pick it up and run around the building with it, and come back and put it back the exact same way it was when you left it. And we all obviously failed because I don't think they're expecting you to pass it really right off the bat. But we did our best, and we got dusted off again. And that was about 10 minutes of just doing jumping jacks, push-ups, all that good stuff. And then they started calling.
But how did that affect you?
Me personally, since I was going to the gym and doing all this stuff, I wasn't really that much. Yeah, it sucked after doing 20 push-ups because everybody's going to be fatigued. But it really wasn't that terrible.
Yeah, I figured probably with you working out the last year and a half prior to getting there, you were running, you were lifting, you were doing all that stuff. It probably wasn't just excruciating on a guy like you.
No, it wasn't that terrible. There's some people obviously who were there who never
struggling.
They never did anything in their life for PT. They were some
struggle
strugglers.
Bus was loud and clear with them.
We had this one guy. His name, I hope he got out of it by now. I haven't talked to him since, but his one guy's name is Murray. He was about 6'5", I think, 6'5", Samoan, 350 pounds. He had a long journey to go there, but I had to help show him how to run. like, just so he doesn't wind himself. So knowing the knowledge I went in with, it definitely helped me, because
100%.
if I didn't, it would have been a little more rougher time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how long were you there then at Fat Camp?
So I was only there so I got there Friday. I stayed Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesdays are tape day. That's the day they tape you, and you're going to decide if you leave that week or not. So I left that Friday. So
so you were only there.
I was only there for a week. So I was in Jackson total about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah.
Between reception and by the time you got there, it was a quick turnaround for you.
Yes. So I mean, you got there, you did what you had to do, and you had to eat the right things. That was another thing. Diet was a big thing in the Army, especially at the Fat Camp. You had to eat right and just do the PT they gave you. You were fine. You could get out of there in 2 weeks easy. There's just some people who were like lack of motivation or whatever it was.
Discipline, probably.
Mm-hmm. Discipline was definitely a big thing. So
you left there Friday.
I left there Friday, and then they shipped me to Fort Leonard Wood that same night. So we got there Friday. We left the Fat Camp back to Jackson Reception, and then from Jackson Reception, we thought we were going to fly us, but no, they took a bus all the way from South Carolina to Missouri. It was about a 13-hour bus ride. Yeah, it was a long bus ride.
Oh, fun.
It was nice. It was a nice little break. You got your phone. You kind of recollect yourself a little bit. So we got to Missouri, and we all thought on the bus that we're gonna, start right away in our boot camp, and we had a whole other reception to do. So we got there, and we already have all the things. We already have all our clothes. We already have everything that was going to be issued to us. So we had to sit there a whole other week just waiting. Couldn't do
paperwork and everything else to come through and make sure that you're doing everything the right way and all.
It was that was a bit of a headache, the reception process at Leonard Wood.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Dan's Diesel Performance. If you're looking to improve your truck's performance, efficiency, or appearance, check out Dan's Diesel Performance. They manufacture turbochargers, fuel injectors, fuel pumps, transmissions, intake piping, and much, much more. Plus, they offer all the top brands in the diesel industry. They're located in Machesney Park, Illinois. Visit their website at dansdieselperformance.com or give them a call at 815-977-5865.
At Jackson, there was no warm water for showers. It was all cold. There was no
in and out.
It was an in and out. It was the quickest shower I ever took in my life. It was downright awful.
But Fort Leonard Wood sounds like it's a different story.
So Fort Leonard Wood was way nicer. Like, it felt like a resort. We were talking because you get there, they had you pillows, blankets, and pillow sheets. Your showers had warm water. Granted, it was an all-one shower, so I mean, you could be showering with some friends of yours, but
hey, whatever.
Warm water. I'd take warm water all day.
Absolutely.
And we didn't. There was really no complaints at the reception in Fort Leonard Wood,
except the waiting.
Except the waiting, yeah. And even at reception, we got our phones on Sundays. At Jackson, you did not get your phone, which was also really nice. And at Fort Leonard Wood, the dining facility was in the reception. So at Jackson, you had to march about maybe half a mile to go eat breakfast. At reception, you could be doing, in Leonard Wood, you could be doing, let's say you're doing your haircuts or something like that, and you have lunch right after. You just walk in the building.
Down the hall,
and you eat and you come back.
That's nice.
It was really nice. And you actually got to see at Fort Leonard Wood the higher ups. So towards the end, we got to see I think Lieutenant Colonel was coming in a lot. So you got to see the people who were actually in charge of the things, showing around, showing, interest, and they give you some talks. So that was
absolutely
really nice that, you got to see that.
So you got there, you waited in reception for what?
So
Was that a week or 5 days or?
so we showed up Saturday and we shipped out, I think it was that Tuesday.
Oh, so you only waited a few days then.
We only waited a few days. It wasn't a whole week, which was also nice. But we had to get, the thing we did have to redo at reception is I had to get different shots because Jackson didn't do it right. I had to get different glasses because they screwed that up. Yeah, Jackson was really like
Thanks, military.
Jackson was like, here's your stuff, bare minimum, go. Fort Leonard Wood's like, oh, we'll get you the right thing.
Yeah.
So
well, and glasses for a guy that wears glasses, you kind of need the right ones.
Yeah, you definitely need to be able to see.
Because if you don't have the right ones, you're not going to be able to see jack shit. And I believe being a military police, you kind of need to see jack shit.
Yes.
So you shipped out Tuesday.
We shipped out Tuesday, and so the way that worked is it's the same process kind of as Fort Jackson. We get out there and we have our military IDs, or your CAT card, Common Access Card, and you're standing there with your Common Access Card and your driver's license in your hand and your dog tag, so they can verify who you are. And as you're on a line, so there's 100 people. No, maybe 80 our first fill. We stand there, and our first sergeant and drill sergeants are walking through, verifying us, and they give you a dot on your shoulder. There's 4 dots. There's green, blue, red, and black, symbolizing each platoon. And there's 4 platoons. I was in first platoon, and when they picked you up, they just said, "Here's your dot," and they verify who you are, and they do all their paperwork, and they got to get that all done. And then you load your bag into an IOTV again, and it's almost the same process. Again, it's the same thing. So that going into that Fort Leonard Wood, I already knew what to expect, which was really nice. Excuse me. So when I went into Fort Leonard Wood, I knew what we're doing. I knew what to expect, and I wasn't really phased that much as some others were.
Yeah, being their first time.
But it also helped because when we went into it, like in the reception, so when I was in reception, I kind of gave some hints to people what to expect because we already been through it all.
Correct.
So we definitely were a little better off in the beginning than some other people were, for sure. But yeah, we got there, we filled in, we did the whole little process again of running and getting yelled at, and you had to do your paperwork for a whole day. And I remember we were sitting in the classroom, because there's classrooms in these buildings that we do basic training in. And we're sitting there like, so we start our time now? They're like, no, you guys are a week early. So we had to wait a whole other week to actually start training. Well, at the basic company already. So we sat there and waited a whole week, waited for more people to come in, and then we started training.
Before you started your training. So walk me through that first day of training.
So I'm trying to think, first day,
first thing that you remember that you were like, uh-oh, or I got this.
Okay. So there's this actually, so that day that we got the second group to fill, so a week later on that Tuesday, the second group filled in, and there's an additional, I think another 50 people just came in. So we had to fill them in on how things work around here. And our drill sergeants told us that it was up to us if we figured it out or we're just going to have another whole week of just living hell. And we had a good group that came in, so they learned really quick. And the next day, so on Wednesday, there's a thing called a foundry. There are challenges we had to do. And we had to, I believe Foundry 1 is what it was. It was a bunch of jerry cans, so filled with water, and they were all stacked on top of a platform. I just call it a platform. They call it a PT stand, but it's on a platform. We all had to bring them down and back, and on them was words, your creeds. So the soldier creed was on it, and the warrior ethos. So you had to put the jugs in the right order of the sayings, and you had to do it timed because you're competing with the other platoons. And We should have won that, but we ended up losing by maybe a second. It's a whole little drama thing there with between the platoons on who won that.
Oh, now it's bragging rights. It's definitely bragging rights.
Exactly what it is. It's just bragging rights, and you get a whole. So each platoon gets a phase banner. Yes, it's called a phase banner, and there's 4 flags, each symbolizing each platoon. And if you won these events, you got a streamer that said Foundry won or whatever the case may be, and you put on your flag, and it's like a victory streamer, bragging rights.
Gotcha.
So that was our second day, and basic training an OSET, I should say, is broken up in 3 phases for basic and 2 phases for AIT.
Okay.
So that first foundry that I just talked about was in white phase. Or no, my bad. Red phase. Red phase is your basic learning, and you're waking up at, I don't know, probably 4:15. They come in, they're waking you up. They wake you up for you. Yup, exactly. They come in there screaming and yelling. You'd be dead asleep, and they'll just ruin your day. Your day's ruined from the get-go.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that's the first step in that, or the first stage in that, is literally just getting your body tuned to what's coming next, to the next stage, and the stage after that. So they're going to throw everything at you.
Yes. If it's so red phase is that building block of your motivation, like getting you motivated, discipline, and you're just building everything you're going to need for the next step for each phase.
And how long does the red stage go for?
Red phase was, I believe, 4 weeks.
Ooh, so it's a good chunk.
It's a good chunk. It's about 4 to 3 weeks. It's somewhere in that middle, because in the middle of the week you transition to white phase.
Okay. Now what's white phase then?
White phase is your basic marksman skills. Your shooting. Those are all the range days with your M4. We transitioned, at least the way we did it. So at the end of every phase was a FTX, field training exercise. And in red phase, it was your first FTX. You in the woods in Missouri, which was absolutely terrible. I do never go camping in Missouri. The ticks and the humidity was just awful.
So what was that? So what was that then?
So
for your final thing for red.
So our final FTX for red phase was we learned how to we wore our IOTVs, which is your plate carrier, and you brought your rifle with you, but there's nothing in it. I don't think we used mags at first FTX. So we got there. You learned how to set up a patrol base, which is a little base in the night you set up, and we had to learn how to low crawl in the woods, and it's basically just like learning how to set up in the woods. All that is in red phase.
Gotcha.
It's just your basic camping skills, really. So then we had a ruck march back. That was I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a ruck march, but that's when you put your backpack on. It's got 40 to anywhere between 60 to 80 pounds of stuff on your back, and we had to walk back to the company. So we got a ride out there on a bus, trans, and we set up that way. But on our way back, they made us walk, and it wasn't the first ruck was oh shit, this is the physical stuff they're really talking about. You gotta really prepare for. It was about, I think it was the first ruck's 5 mile, so it was a 5 mile walk back with that poundage.
Yeah, with 80 or 90 pounds worth of gear on top of what you.
And you're carrying your rifle on you, so you can't. So they give you a sling, but you can't sling it. So they catch you slinging it, you're gonna get yelled at. So we walked back, and we finished our FTX when we complete the ruck. And the next day we transitioned to white, and then that week we started learning how to use those positions of firing, the standing, on the prone, or crouched, or on your knees. You learn all your shooting and your rifle skills in white phase. And
did you like that phase?
It was all right. The M4s, they give you a really, really beat down because they've been just used.
Destroyed by everybody.
Yeah.
In the dirt and
But it wasn't terrible. I shot marksman on it, which is like the bare minimum. I qualified for it. I wasn't used to using an iron sights. Iron sights is a whole different game.
Whole different ball game.
Than using a red dot or any scope. It's hard. You have to shoot so for the qualifications, that is, you got to shoot a 50 target. You have to shoot like 40 rounds, I believe it was, or 60 rounds. There's a 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and 300.
Is that feet or yards?
Or no, it's meters.
Meters.
Which is close enough to yards.
Close enough to a yard. Yeah, I think they're relatively close. It's like the
0.3 difference.
Yeah.
It adds up a little bit, but not much.
Not much. So you had to use your iron sights at 50,
yes.
150, 250, and 3.
Yep. 3, I actually shot pretty well. So there's pre-qual and there's qualification. I did really good pre-qual, but when I qualified, I was a little
off.
A little off.
Yeah, it happens.
But you do it every 6 months for active duty, and for reserves, it's every year you have to do it. So you get a chance to redo it. But during that whole white phase, you zero in your own rifle. You practice getting familiar with it and everything. So they really
taking it apart, putting it back together, cleaning it from top to bottom, front to back.
Cleaning it was a nightmare. I'll say that because the rounds we use are reloaded, and whatever gunpowder the Army's using is just really dirty for whatever reason.
Yeah, like the Iron Wolves.
It is.
Got a bunch of those in my safe over here. Phenomenal. Cheap rounds at shoot-aways.
And you had to clean it, and just trying to clean it at first, they really only give you Q-tip and baby wipes. That's all you had to clean your rifle. So you're sitting there for an hour and a half trying to clean the star chamber, and you bring it to your drill sergeant, I think it's clean, and he just puts his finger in there. He's like, yep, go run a lap.
Try again.
And so when you don't clean your rifle right, they'll punish you for it just because there's nothing else to do. And they're trying to teach you to
take care of it,
clean it.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that if you didn't have your rifle cleaned, you're learning how to do everything here at the white stage, right? We're teaching you how to shoot, we're teaching you how to clean, we're teaching you how to do this thing the right way. And if you're gonna do it the right way, well, that's fine. But like you said, go run a lap.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And also, I believe it was white phase, in the beginning of white phase, or maybe in red phase. We do the courses that you might know of. So there's a rappel tower we got to do.
Yep.
Rappel tower, which I thought it was fun. It's scary at the same time. You climb up the ladder. It's about, I think, 30 to 20 feet. It's somewhere in that range. You climb up, and you get up there, and then you look down, and you're like,
ooh, that's a long way down.
It's a hell of a drop if you fall. And you get there, and you get to stand your hands and knees for safety. But you get there, and you have to tie your own harness, too. And we go up to the drill sergeant. He hooks you, and he tells you to step over. And when you're on a little tiny wood that's about that big, it's like I don't even know, not even a 2x4 size. It's just so tiny. You have to put your put your legs on it, or I should say you have to put your toes on it. And you just gotta lean back. And
come on, baby, hold. Come on, baby, hold.
So you're praying that you tied a knot right, and then you just got to really trust your equipment, which is the number one thing that they train you to do is just trust your equipment. And the rappel tower was fun and scary. Going down, it was definitely that adrenaline rush can cloud your mind, I should say, because you're just you're so worried on doing it right because you can fall
30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt a lot. But if you just listen and execute the way they tell you, you'll be fine. That they expect you to do it in 3 to 4 jumps. I got it done in 4, but that first jump was a little test in the waters. I jumped, so when you jump on rappel, you pull your hand out, you're gonna go down, but when you put it behind your back, you're gonna stop. So I jumped, I put it out for like 2 seconds, and I put it back behind my back, and like it brings you to the wall. So
It stops you now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, this ain't that bad, and you go all the way down.
Finally got it.
It was fun. It's fun to do after you do it once.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one of the first things you do for you're getting your nerves out of your system. The next thing we did was the confidence course, which is, excuse me.
No, you're good. Let it eat.
There's there's 3 courses we had to do. There's I think it's called the not Jacob's Tower. The Lincoln Logs is what it's like. It's like a Lincoln Logs tower, right? And you had to use you and your teammates to climb up. And there's
It's at an angle like that, I think, or something.
It's
right?
not. It's not an angle. It's a straight up.
Okay.
But between the gap, so I could stand underneath. It was like a 7-foot gap, and once you got everybody up to the next platform above you, there's no ladder or nothing. It's just hoisting your buddy up. And the next platform was a 10-foot gap, and you had to hoist them above that one to the third platform.
Teamwork. Now you're learning teamwork.
It's teamwork building, and it was a little sketchy because like my group, we did it really well, and like we had strong, smart people. But there's another group who had like 3 skinny guys, one really big dude, and one like she was like pretty like 200 pounds. She was not that strong, I should say, to get him up there, and they were kind of struggling getting people up there. And
Makes sense.
And it's just a fall. If you fall, you got to restart. So that was a fun one to do. Jacob's ladder, which is it's a ladder, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a ladder, but with every step and every time you go up, the gap gets bigger. Eventually, it's like almost like a 4-foot gap between the ladder, and then you got to go back down on the other side. Going up was easy, but coming down...
That's tricky.
That's the tricky part. We had somebody stay up there for about 10 minutes because he didn't want to come back down. And the drill sergeants, they do it with you, too. So, like, they show you that it's safe and how to do it. And our drill sergeant was sitting up there with him for 10 minutes. She's like, what do you want me to do? Call the fire department to come get you? You fail anyway, so you might as well just commit to it.
Exactly. Just at that point in time, you have no other choice.
Mm-hmm.
The choice is go up and come down, both ways.
And and as soon as you get that mentality, just like you just got to do it. And if you fall, you fall. Someone's gonna be there to help you.
So, to bring us back around here a little bit, white stage was the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
You got the marksmanship on that, and then you transfer to the last stage now,
which is blue phase.
Okay. Sorry, I keep calling them stages. They're phases. I'll get it.
It's the same.
I'll get it.
Different. So blue phase, which is your last one for basic training. Blue phase is putting everything you've learned together. So in the red phase, you learn your medical. You learn how to call a 9-line. You learn all like the technical stuff. Your battle tactics, and then white phase is shooting, and now blue phase is putting all that together. Blue phase, I want to say you're kind of preparing for like a, like you're going to get deployed kind of, like that's the mindset you should have. In blue phase, you're learning how to move tactically as a group, like how to plan things a little bit. And so it prepares you for that final FTX, the forge is what they call it. So every FTX has got a name. The first one's the hammer, then the anvil, and the forge. So the forge is the last one. In the forge, you spend, I think, 3 days, 2 nights. It's
sure. I'll take your word on it. It sounds good to me.
It's about you're longer than you were the last past FTXs. You're out there a little longer.
Out in the woods, you're talking.
Mm-hmm. And you're preparing for that like deployment phase. And one of the things you do was ours was the first time it was different. We did our 10-mile ruck. So we did 10 miles with that 60-pound backpack. It was we started at 9 o'clock. We ended at 2:30 in the morning. And we camped out in this open grass field. We just usually we camp in like the woods and the trees, and this time it was an open field, so it felt kind of nice. But the worst part was it was 40 degrees outside, and there's no cover.
Ooh, a little chilly.
It was a little cold out that night. And we only got about, we woke up at 4:30. The sun just came up, and right when we wake up, it starts raining, and you're just in the middle of an open field, and it's raining, and it's like wind. It was a storm, I should say. So they get us up, and we moved to a range that was nearby, and we sat underneath there for about 2 hours. With that 2-hour break, we had our sergeant major, which is a pretty higher up, and our lieutenant colonel show up, and they've just kind of, we're just seeing how we're doing, verifying how we're doing. And with the FTX, you don't usually see them come out there, so we're kind of like a little confused on what's going on. That was off track, but
no, it's interesting to make sure that they're checking in on all of you to make sure everybody's safe, everybody's good to go. Yes, we're training you, but
yes,
we want to make sure everybody here is okay.
Yeah,
that's key too.
But about the rain passed and the day started picking back up. Then we had to do another march. This blew us out of water because we were only told we were doing a 10-mile. So we do another 2.5 mile march. Yes, to our spot, get set up, and we had to do Nick at night, which is one of the events you got to do. It's a graduation requirement to becoming a soldier. And Nick was a really cool thing. It's about 5 o'clock. The sun's just going down, and you have to do like you're in the trenches kind of thing, like from World War I. You go up and over, and you start walking, and they shoot a flare. And with the flare, you're supposed to go down and start low crawling in sand, and they start shooting live LMG rounds over your head. And you're just crawling through barbed wire and all that. It takes about 30 minutes, which feels like 10 because the adrenaline rush is so high. That was a really fun part, doing that Nick at night, because it just kind of gives you that whole
real combat feel.
They shoot tracer rounds, and they throw like little motor grenades, and they're fake grenades to get you that that feeling. They're trying to really familiarize you with
what you could potentially see in the future.
And that was like a big event. It was kind of like, it was cool that it happened. It was really short lived. It was like super hyped up. I felt like it was a little like a letdown because I thought it was a little bit more, but I enjoyed it. Crawling through the sand was terrible though, because it just, like I said,
it goes everywhere.
You couldn't there was sand in my uniform for like weeks. You can't get it out. We complete that, and we had to do that march. I said that 2.5 march, and you're in your sand, and it's just wet, and you're just miserable. It was just awful. That was probably the worst march I've ever done of all basic training. That was the worst because it's just wet sand, and you're miserable. It's cold, and you can't see. I think like if you just looked back at somebody, you just looked like a zombie. They weren't there.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, you guys were sleep deprived, and you were out in all the elements, and then you got into a hot combat zone, and then so once the adrenaline wears down, you're like, oh shit, I'm tired, I'm ready, and then all of a sudden, hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's go for a 2.5 mile ruck. Let's get this thing going, and you're like, oh god.
So we marched to our camping spot for that night, and the next day we had a run mission, so we had to go. This was surprising to us, but they just wanted. We did another march that morning, which was probably another 2.5 mile. It was a lengthy march. We didn't have a rucksack on us. It was just a rifle and your tiny little backpack on you. Ran some missions, and you came back. And then the next day, there's this thing called, it's the very last thing we had to do for basic training. It's called battle march and shoot. So you take your rifle and your rucksack, and you go on a short ruck. And after that short ruck, you're rucking to a range. So you put your ruck down, and you go shoot. You have to shoot 40, you have 40 rounds, you're supposed to hit all 40 targets. we were so close to winning, but we had one guy who misheard and shot his one target 40 times. So we lost that one.
I mean, good for him for shooting the target.
Yeah.
40 out of 40, though. You got to give him credit for that.
Give him credit. He was, good job shooting 40 rounds to one target, but too bad that wasn't the objective.
Yeah, that's a little off target there.
But so that was the last thing we had to do for that blue phase. And
so then your basic training was basically over with at that point.
Yes. So we went back to the company. You washed up because you haven't showered in 2 days and it's miserable. Trying to get the sand out your uniform. Then you come back and you do the ceremony, the welcome to the Army. It's a bonfire. It's on. I'm sure it's on Facebook somewhere.
Yeah, I think I've seen pictures of it on there.
Yes, that's the welcome to the Army. Excuse me. So you do that. Now you're officially a soldier, and then that's where you get different because since we're OSET, normal people would just go back home or go to their job training after that. You had that Sunday off, and that Saturday was like a rest day. Come Monday, we start our military police training right off the bat. So we had another foundry. You had more stuff to learn. We had our Hell Week and the next phase, the next phase is called Black Phase.
Okay.
So for AIT, that for OSET, that last two portions is called Black and Gold Phase. Black Phase was learning all your law enforcement stuff. So we're learning how to detain, DUIs, high traffic stop. We learned how to do active shooter. That was one I did not know we would do. But they started implementing active shooter into the military police training.
Wow, that's interesting.
It was kind of like, it's cool to learn, and it's like a good thing to know because I guess it's happening more and more nowadays. And
yeah, crazy people in the world.
Mm-hmm. So we learned how to do that, and then your last. So now there's a thing called LEX, your law enforcement exercise. So it's like an FTX, but this is it's a week-long thing. So it's a whole week of just doing law enforcement patrolling. And you do all that in your Black Phase. And then as soon as you're done with your LEX, you transition into Gold Phase. And Gold Phase was learning the tactical side of being an MP. So like the military job.
Yeah. The job that you signed up to do. Mm-hmm. That one.
So so in Gold Phase, you start learning how to move tactically. So you kind of take what you learned from the active shooter and the law enforcement side a little bit, but now you're taking it to an extent of, now you're in a combat zone. So now you got to learn how to detain someone on the spot, like a prisoner of war, let's say. You got to learn how to take them in. You got to learn how to do a convoy. You got to learn how to pull security 24/7. Like you're just learning so much in that time.
Because you said that's like what, 10 weeks?
That was about
between Black and Gold.
Yeah, it's about 10 weeks. So it's like 5 weeks of law enforcement and about almost 5 weeks of that tactical side of being an MP. Which is really, I mean, I like that. I didn't even know this, but when I joined the MP side, I didn't know we get all these like cool toys, which was just like a cool bonus. You got the MAV-V, which is a big truck made in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's mine-proof and all that. That's real. It was fun. I was blessed to drive that. I was one of the 4 people out of the whole platoon who could drive one of those.
No kidding. What made you so special?
I don't know. I still don't know to this day why they chose me, but
they did.
But they did, and it was fun. I was the gunner. So first we had to learn how to drive it. In Gold Phase, you're still learning all these things. You had to learn how to drive vehicles. You had to learn how to look for IEDs and bombs on roads. You had to look for like how to detain somebody on so as an MP, you got to set up a patrol base on the road sometimes. So you had to look how to thoroughly search a vehicle, detain them if they need to be. You gotta learn all these things.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense, because if you get a flat tire or something, you got to stop and hey, we got to make a perimeter here, get this thing fixed so we can get back on the road again.
Yes, and and it's just pulling secure. Like it's just being an MP. There's simple things as like pulling security, like on a road. So all we do is just block off a road, and people come by. You just turn them around, and you don't give them any answers, and it's just simple as that. It could be as complicated as setting up that base. So setting up the base, you're gonna have all your trucks pulled up, and there's like a certain search points for the vehicle and for the personnel, and then you either send them on their way or detain them right there on the spot.
Gotcha.
There's a lot going on in those patrol bases, so it's just a matter of what happens.
Yeah, they're teaching you how to do it the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So then you get done with black, you moved into gold, you learned all the tactical side of things. What now?
So now, in gold phase, once you learn all these things, you take everything you learn from basic and a little bit of law enforcement, and you put it all together. This last FTX of gold phase, which is we did about 4 weeks ago now. It's a 5-day, 4 nights in the woods. So first you get there, you take a convoy out to your spot, and you set up security, you set up base, and then you're just setting up base for the day. The next day, we ran some missions. We had a down UAV simulation and coming into a village and patrolling, like, so scouting the roads. So, like, where could an enemy be in the wood lines, or is this intersection dangerous for if we had a convoy or something coming through. Those were the 4 day, like, that was just your training essence. And then we had a night mission of like an airplane. Let's say an airplane went down, or a pilot or someone of high value is calling in for a pickup. So we ran a mission at night. You had to run. It was about, I'll say it's 10 miles from our patrol base we set up. We had to go out there, secure the area, 360 security. Everybody beside the drivers is out of the truck, securing the area. Maybe a group of 2 would come in and get the pilot, put them in the Humvee, and you all leave. That was some of the things you did. And then another MP group would be blocking the roads. So it was a straight shot to that spot.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of security going on within.
A lot of communication, too.
Mm-hmm. Communication is definitely key to what's going on.
If you ever have to do an operation like that.
So, yeah, communication, and just you have to be all on the same page too before you can go out. Absolutely.
Everybody needs to know their job and knows exactly how to do it.
It was kind of cool to see, because we were first platoon and second platoon. So my platoon at that time was the road blockers, and the second platoon was the people going in and grabbing said pilot or whatever. It's kind of cool to see that, one group is learning one thing, the other group is learning the other thing, and now it all just comes together.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that was pretty much most of the black phase or in gold phase. And gold phase was probably my favorite. And then after, so those are the first 2 nights, I should say, of doing the missions.
Yeah.
The third night was we moved. We were acting like we got spotted. Our patrol base is spotted. We're compromised. And you had to move to a different spot and do the whole setup again. So we did that. And it's crazy how quick you can get packed up and go. We were gone in 10 minutes. And, you have all your backpacks and everything, but you're packed up and you're gone.
That's impressive.
And then we set up for no base that whole next day, and you just kind of sat around the woods. Of course, obviously you just got to wait.
Singing Kumbaya.
Yep. Sing Kumbaya, holding hands, bonfires. But the next day was like your final big mission, is what they're like playing it off as. And we were tasked with being the Op 4, so we were the bad guys, because somebody's got to play as bad guys.
Yeah, someone's got to be the villain.
Mm-hmm. And that was the fun part for, I think, most of us. That was the most fun part, because we, as a first platoon, we got to this big simulated village. It's like like a city. There's like 3, 4-story buildings, and there's people on the rooftops, people on the ground. And in this FTX, we also had the bigger guns. So we had the M4s, obviously, but also we had the 240 Bravos and M249s, your LMGs.
Yeah, the big dogs.
Those were, granted, they weren't live rounds, but shooting blanks were just
as fun.
And we were tasked with being the op force. We go to the village and we set up and we get all ready for the MPs to come in, so the rest of the company to come in, and we were ambushing them. So when they pulled in, I'm sitting on top of a second story house, kind of. And as soon as they pulled in, I kind of waited, and when they got set up and parked their cars and they all came out, it's just crazy how bad it is to ambush America, like just the Army and military in general, especially if you know what's going to happen.
Wow, like you, I was just going to say, you've been in that situation how many times before? So you know all the codes. You know, hey, they're going to come up here, they're going to do this, they're going to get out, they're going to this, and this. That's when I'm going to do it.
But it was fun that I was tasked with having the LMG, so I just sat by the window and I just let that thing eat the belt. Oh, that was fun. You just pull the trigger and that thing just eats.
She goes. Well, that's good that you got to see both sides of it. You know what I mean? You got to play the villain and you get to play
the good guy.
The good guy. So you can understand now what maybe you would think in a certain situation, especially now that you've played the villain. You can, when you come in and you go, okay, we need to check this window, we need to check that upper floor before we even really do anything, because we could be ambushed here, here, and here. Why? Because you were there.
Yeah.
You were that guy for this scenario.
And it's great to know, like, you got to know how the enemy thinks so you can help yourself think.
Yep.
But that was the last major thing for our training for MPs, and we move on to graduation, and here we are.
What? So the Army Reserves, obviously, you're not. It's one of those things that you're not. Are you considered active duty, technically?
No. So active duty is, you're working there 24. That's your job. Active duty means you are on base. You're going wherever the government tells you. You are full time working for the Army. I'm part-time. I'm considered an active reservist, I guess you could say.
Active reserve. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
So I still work for the military, part-time, obviously. But
unless needed full-time, correct?
Unless needed full-time. So they can call me up tomorrow, my first sergeant, somebody can call me up and say, hey, we're going to wherever, or, you're needed here, and I have to go.
How long does that contract go for?
That goes for mine goes for 6 years, and then you're obligated to. So, I mean, once my contract is over, quotation marks.
Yeah, the 2-year mark.
Yes. So if we were to go into another war and I'm still on that 2-year obligation, they could call me up and say, hey, you need to come fight.
Yeah, now. But after the 2 years, then
I'm done.
Are you free?
Yeah.
Can you come do this?
Do you want to come do this?
So now, do you got to go through training every month or every other month or something like that to keep up on everything that you've learned here?
So there's a thing called drill. That's what we got to do every once a month. Mine's October 19th. I got to go up there and do some training. I'm not too sure what I got to do yet because I haven't been up there at all.
Yeah, like I said, you just got out of basic here a little bit ago. So,
but yeah, it's just you go up there, you do some training for 2 days, and you're free. And then 2 weeks out of the whole year, you do extensional training. And then obviously every 4 years you're going to deploy, or if they pick up a random deployment that they want to do, then you will deploy then.
And it sounds like you've kind of already maybe got that involved.
Yes. I feel like I found out we're going to Poland as of June of next year. I just asked the civilian that works up there. I said, if we have any time that we're deploying, and he said, oh yeah, you're going in June of next year to Poland.
Poland.
So that's going to be fun and interesting. It's going to be it's going to be nice to kind of see how active life is a little bit.
Well, it's going to be also interesting too to get out of the United States, get across the pond over there, see how things are different over there compared to here. Because just because you're going to be there for however long you're going to be there, doesn't mean you're going to be in a bunker the whole time.
Yeah,
you're going to have some freedoms over there as well. I'm guessing.
I'm pretty sure, if it's to my knowledge, you work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And then weekends you have off. I'm pretty sure that's how it normally is in active military. I'm assuming that's how it is when we get deployed. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. But well, it sounds like you've got a good thing heading now.
I'm excited. I'm excited really for this deployment. Just to test it out, see water, see the world a little bit.
Yeah. Not
at my expense either. Thank you, taxpayers.
Hey, you're welcome. Anytime. Again, we thank you guys more than you should be thanking us.
Nice.
So, what's in your personal life now? Because I know you said at the beginning of the podcast you wanted to become a cop and maybe even a sheriff someday. So, are you taking online classes or anything like that to pursue that at all right now, or are you just kind of okay, I'm finally done with all this stuff. I'm going to take a little mental break before I jump back on that train again?
It's a little bit of both, I should say. I've been reaching out to some departments. I'm going to reach out to Walworth here, hopefully this coming week. I'm going to try out for Walworth County because
cool.
I found out in Wisconsin that the training we do in the military police training, the school, transitions to Wisconsin, so you don't have to go to a police academy. You just sign in, and hopefully they just say, all right, well, here's a 72-hour law class for Wisconsin, and you're in.
There you go. That might be something. Thanks again, Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Illinois
Bastards.
doesn't. Yeah, they don't. I don't know why they don't recognize it. It's annoying.
It doesn't make any sense to me because it's like you are literally being trained by the U.S. government on the beginnings of being a police officer.
It's
by the U.S. government, not some agency, the United States government, and Illinois is going, yeah, no, shit, that ain't good enough. Sorry, boys and girls, you're going to have to do things our, well, what the shit? Like, come on.
Yeah, Illinois, that's a whole case on their own because they want you to go to the academy for probably 13 weeks, relearn everything you've already learned.
And I'm sure you'll learn some new stuff. Don't get me wrong.
No,
obviously, because you guys are dealing more on the war side of things more than the civilian side of things.
Well, like when I talked about in that black phase, it's all law enforcement. So we learned actually how to do all the DUIs and all that stuff. We actually had to learn how to write tickets and all that. I mean, I know tickets are completely different from the civilian side to the military side because in the military side, it's a little form that says, what branch are you and all that. And obviously in the civilian side, you can't say, what branch are you?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say something, but I'm going to keep it to myself. Yeah, exactly. But the idea is still similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff, and codes are a little different, obviously, but
right.
There's a lot of the same things that transfer over to a civilian side.
I 100% agree with that. We've been talking a long time now, believe it or not.
I had no clue how far we're in.
An hour 15 right now.
Oh, wow.
It goes pretty quick when you sit down here. Well, hey, man, thanks for coming over and talking about your experiences and becoming an MP and going through, the military and all that stuff. It's for those of us that have not done that, it's nice to see that. It's nice to understand what you guys are going through, what's out there, what it becomes to do, what you're doing, and I appreciate that.
Of course.
Next, if you go to Poland, when you come back from Poland, you'll have to come back over and sit down, and we'll have a conversation about how things are over there.
I'm sure things are going to be fun and exciting in Poland.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for you, really. I got a friend of mine right now that's over in Germany. And he's there. He's going to be there probably 2.5 years now.
Oh, wow.
And he's stationed over there, and he's a helicopter pilot.
Oh,
I'm sorry, a helicopter mechanic. So him and his wife are over there, and they're just living it up because he's like, frick, we can go over to here and over to here because it's only a 2 or 3 hour drive compared to when we're in the United States. It's a 14-hour flight. You know what I mean? So he's living it up. He's enjoying the hell out of it. So, but thank you again for coming over, and thanks again for keeping our country safe. And I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's my honor to serve the great country of America.
It is a great country. Anybody that doesn't agree with that, well, there's other countries. There's 207 other countries in the world. Go pick one. That's my opinion. But
I agree.
We'll leave it at that. Hunter, thank you, sir.
Thank you.